The walls are closing in. Sarah Ferguson, 66, is on edge as the Royal Lodge eviction looms. From palatial grandeur to a renovated cattle shed. The humiliating truth behind the Duke and Duchess's final split. You won't believe the new living quarters. The emotional fallout. Facing homelessness after decades of royal life. Like Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Sarah Ferguson will soon be kicked out of Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park, Berkshire, and so desperately needs a new place to live. This is more than a simple real estate transaction. It is the final, agonizing dissolution of a life defined by opulence and royal association. For Sarah, the prospect of losing Royal Lodge, the sprawling, familiar sanctuary she has shared, albeit platonically, with her ex-husband for decades, is a source of intense psychological distress. The term desperately needs underscores a deep-seated anxiety about stability and status that follows years of relentless public scrutiny. Sarah Ferguson is expected to live in a modest granny flat at her daughter Princess Beatrice's house when she's booted out of Royal Lodge, it is claimed. The phrase granny flat carries an inescapable air of diminishment. To transition from a palatial residence in Windsor Great Park to a small, secondary living space implies a profound loss of autonomy and independence. This sudden shift in domicile is forcing the former Duchess of York to confront the uncomfortable reality of dependence on her children. It is said the ostracized former Duchess of York, 66, is on edge at the prospect of being made homeless, with sources claiming the pair will go their separate ways. The detail that the former Duchess, at 66, is on edge perfectly captures the emotional turmoil. The threat of being made homeless, even when the reality involves a multi-million-pound property, is terrifying. It symbolizes the loss of identity and security. Furthermore, the claim that the disgraced Duke and the former Duchess will go their separate ways signals the end of their long-standing, unusual domestic arrangement. Royal Lodge was the physical manifestation of their peculiar, yet enduring, bond. Its loss is forcing a final, emotionally charged separation. She and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who was Prince Andrew, are set to be kicked out of Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park soon following the scandal surrounding the former royal. The root cause is clear. The fallout from the scandal has finally reached a critical mass, forcing the Crown to take decisive, albeit delayed, action. Sarah, though not directly implicated in the scandal, is an inevitable casualty of the institutional purge, suffering the emotional pain of displacement driven by external forces beyond her control. The humble sanctuary, a renovated cattle shed as the new normal. She could potentially stay in a granny annex at the Oxfordshire mansion, worth £3.5 million, belonging to her daughter Beatrice and son-in-law Edoardo Mappelli Mozzi, it is understood. This temporary exile, ironically, is still situated within significant wealth, yet the emotional impact of occupying an annex rather than the main house remains considerable. One source said, "It would be perfect for the former Duchess as it's close to her daughter but also completely independent of the main house where Beatrice and Edoardo live." The emphasis on independence is a psychological lifeline. Sarah needs her own space to maintain a sense of self-respect and avoid feeling like a burden, even while relying on her daughter. Sarah would be able to just walk a few yards and be an on-site babysitter for Sienna, who she simply adores, and with Eugenie living in Portugal it makes perfect sense. This is where the emotional silver lining appears. The ability to be an on-site babysitter for her beloved granddaughter, Sienna, provides a vital purpose and grounding force. This maternal and grandmotherly role offers comfort and meaning, outweighing the luxury lost. The fact that Princess Eugenie lives in Portugal adds a layer of emotional urgency to staying close to Beatrice and her family in the UK. The outbuilding is a small one-bedroom former cattle shed at Beatrice's home, which is tucked away in a quaint village. The stark comparison, a former cattle shed, to the grandeur of Royal Lodge is the cruel twist in the tale. It is a symbol of the ultimate stripping away of pretense, forcing a royal figure back to the most basic, utilitarian form of dwelling. Beatrice, 37, and Eduardo, 41, recently renovated the outhouse. Planning documents on the council website reveal how over the years they have made several adjustments to the property. It is ready for Sarah, an author, to move in potentially before Christmas, although Andrew, 65, is expected to spend one last festive period at Royal Lodge. The renovation work undertaken by Beatrice and Eduardo speaks volumes about their devotion. This is not a reluctant accommodation, it is an act of filial love, meticulously preparing a secure nest for their mother. The thought of Andrew enjoying one final, luxurious Christmas at Royal Lodge, while Sarah prepares for a new, humble beginning, further highlights the painful inequity of their circumstances. The material reality, propane, stonework, and new beginnings. The source told the Mail on Sunday last week. The Granny Annex seems to be ready to move into now. It'd be perfect for Fergie, wouldn't it? The stonework has all been repointed, the gutters renovated, the woodwork nicely painted. It has its own entrance. The attention to detail in the renovation, the repointed stonework and nicely painted woodwork, indicates a move toward comfortable simplicity, far removed from palatial grandeur, but built with care. It is believed a delivery of propane gas bottles arrived at the property for the annex last month during the cold snap. It already had the amenities for Sarah, who has lived with Andrew for decades, even since their divorce in 1996. The mundane detail of the propane gas bottles arriving during the cold snap grounds the narrative in domestic reality, contrasting sharply with the heated luxury the Duchess is leaving behind. Her long, unusual cohabitation with Andrew, lasting decades after their divorce, underscores her enduring emotional need for a familiar domestic environment, which she is now desperately trying to recreate. The previous owners of the Oxfordshire property completed the annex, but, according to neighbours, it has undergone a complete renovation in recent months. The stonework has been repointed and the gutters replaced, and the annex has its own independent entrance, which it is said would be perfect for the ex-wife of the disgraced Duke of York. The independent entrance is the final psychological necessity, the ability to come and go without the constant surveillance or intrusion of living under her daughter's roof. Career crossroads, the pull of home versus the lure of the foreign. It had been reported, though, Fergie intended to move abroad amid the wake of the Andrew controversy. Her sister and closest confidant Jane Ferguson lives in Australia, and Princess Eugenie has a £3.6 million oceanside villa in Portugal. The idea of moving abroad, to the welcoming embrace of her sister in Australia or the sunny refuge of Portugal, represents a desire for total escape from the suffocating pressure of the British press and the royal shadow. But a move closer to home looks more likely for the grandmother of four, who has worked in this country as a TV personality in recent years. Ultimately, the emotional pull of her remaining grandchildren and the professional opportunities are stronger. It may reopen avenues for work in the media here, despite reports which suggested Sarah lost her post on This Morning and other ITV programs. Staying in the UK keeps her in the media arena. Though her career as an author and TV personality has suffered setbacks, the necessity of earning a living, combined with her natural affinity for the spotlight, suggests that this new, stable base near London could facilitate a career resurgence, a final attempt to secure her own financial destiny away from the scandals that have defined her life. What emotional toll will this sudden, forced downsizing take on Sarah Ferguson, and will the love of her grandchildren be enough to sustain her new, humbler life?